Good morning, and good morning. I tell you, this morning, these necklaces were getting all tangled up in everything. So I had to take off one of them. But anyway, good morning. How are you? I'm going to take a breath. I'm looking for peace this weekend. How about you? I'm looking for my utopia, my small period of just peace. You know, I'm not bothering anybody and nobody's bothering me. That I've found maybe my music comfort, my words of comfort, my bed of comfort, my conversations of comfort, my warm cup of tea of comfort, the heat is supposed to drop again. Oh, and by the way, we're supposed to have spring sooner than later. So I'm looking forward with that. I guess his name is Huxicani Phil, you know, uh, found a way to say that we're going to have a nicer and earlier spring than a longer winter. So I'm looking forward to that. I think we've had enough cold weather as far as I'm concerned. Everybody knows I don't like the cold. But anyway, I was just thinking about all the things that we wanted to discuss and what I wanted to discuss with you this morning. And I kept thinking about what would it be like to know utopia, not just as an imagined place, but just a place where we find comfort and peace and kindness and love and concern and all those kinds of things. I'm going to give a disclaimer this morning. I have to. I woke up early this morning and I had done everything I was supposed to do for this session, except make sure that it was posted at the right time. So for some reason or another, it skipped that phase when I was in StreamYard putting it on this morning. So I do apologize for those who haven't been able to come on yet, but they can watch it later. It doesn't change anything. I just want to make sure that they know I love them, and it wasn't intentional that I forgot to post the time, but I'm always on at 9, and today is no different. Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9. So I just want them to know that I apologize that I didn't get it on to make sure that they were able to tune in. But it should show up that it's live now, so that's good. But anyway, what is utopia? What is utopia? And it says, utopia is a place where you can find pure air, a place where everyone is kind, everyone is polite, and they're fair, a place where there are angels flying everywhere, a place where there is neither sadness nor despair. They all love each other and for emotions care. No envy, lying, or hypocrisy. I swear, everything and everyone's ideal, I'm aware. I really, really wish I could be there. This poem is revised by the great poet John Knight Mara Ibrahim. So it's not my poem. Good morning, Sherry. How are you? Good to see you in the space. Um, it's not my poem, but the words are beautiful. Just to say that utopia is that place you might like to be, where it's pure air. So you're breathing well, you're feeling well. Everyone is kind and polite. Just that right there, kind and polite. I was reading a note this morning from a good friend over the years, of us working together on a major project in the city. And she was saying that someone came to her business, and because she didn't want the services that they had, it was really a solicitation and not that they were purchasing anything. And they decided to write up a review. It had nothing to do with what they sell at her location. It was just, a snide swipe at how she felt the owner looked, and very negative. And she said, just because I didn't want your services, this is what you write. It had nothing to do with what we serve here, which is foods. It's a produce place. So sometimes we may enter into situations where people aren't not kind, they're not good, They're not really interested in being fair to you. They just want to make sure that they come out on top, that people see them and think that they've discovered something about you that's negative. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. It's just, it certainly does hurt me when people do things like that to other people. Good morning, Erica. How are you doing, sweetie? Good to have you in space. We're talking about utopia. And I was just giving an example of how people are not fair and they're not polite. And sometimes they can end up doing something to you or towards your, what you do as your business or your livelihood, and make it where it's a negative and you've not done anything to them, but say that you maybe didn't want their services or you weren't interested in working with them. Things happen. And the poem I read, you can look it up. It's by John Knight Merriam Ibrahim. So really good poem, and it talks about just what utopia is. You know, how can we, take care of others if we don't know how to treat others? Certainly saying hello, being polite, thank you. Those are things that we learn early on in life. Thank you, please, I understand, kindness. And most people understand kindness if they're willing to give it, then they know when they're receiving it. But if they don't know and have not experienced it well, or if they felt that you've rejected them just because you said no, well, no is another one of them words that we learned early in our lives. We learn no. No is no. It doesn't imply that there's negativity to it, except that you don't want what they have going on, and that's okay. So anyway, let's talk a little about utopia, and I'll ask this: has anyone ever been stuck, like as it talks about, are you stuck in just wanting a period in their lives of utopia? No stress, no strain, no hurts, no, negative talk, just peace. Just peace and love and kindness, and like it says, almost like it's a paradise for you. Every once in a while, I love that. I think about what's in the news constantly and what's on social media. We're constantly bombarded with what, the negative side of life is. Eventually, all of us, we will leave here and we will find out what is on the other side of where we are now. And there's no coming back. But as long as we're here, why not be pleasant? Why not be kind to people? Why not show mercy? Why not show love? Why not show peace? For me, I make every attempt of doing it. I'm not going to lie. To me, I just feel, I have to answer for whatever it is that I did that was negative, and I don't want it. So I ask people not to do it to me. Stay clear, as they say, stay clear of the negativeness, because it doesn't let you be in your own peace. So what is utopia? It says utopia is an imagined place, or it's a state of things in which everything is perfect. Meaning, and sometimes people will describe when they got married, when they got engaged. It might be when they went away on vacation and they got away from the hustle and bustle and the phone calls and the requirements of what people expect of them. They found their own personal utopia. And it may be imagined, or it may actually be I would say, a spiritual place, or a humbling place, a place of comfort. It's wonderful if that's what you can get. But it says utopia, in the synonyms say it's an ideal place. It's a place of paradise. It is a place almost heaven, or heaven on earth. And they also call it happy valley, the bliss, the seventh heaven. All of those things are relatable to what utopia is. And I always think about, amen, you are speaking what is on my heart this morning. Oh, wonderful, Sherry. Come on now. I tell you, the Lord Sherry, you and I have to talk, because some mornings I wake up and I do believe in God, and I do believe in the higher spirit of what he gives me. And some days I am absolutely riveted with things that I need to get out there. I don't know where it comes from but him. It can't come from anybody. And I'm like constantly, I have another word and I have another word and I have another word, because I feel that this is the opportunity of making people talk, making people understand where they are in their lives. I mean, I had been a counselor for years, and I talk about, the fact that I was solidly grounded in professions, education, and also, both clinical, educational, and community counseling. I loved it. I loved it. But eventually I was taking on their problems. So that's what made me back off, especially with the clinical, because, sometimes clinical needed things like psychotropic drugs and of that nature. And it just seemed like they had the side effects and they had the things that brought on other things that couldn't, but then without them, they were worse. So how do you ever get people to where they need to be, unless you have an understanding of your limitedness, and then your allowance, your ability to allow things to come in. And when I felt that I couldn't allow anything more to come in, I limited what I would come in and decided, hey, I don't want to work the clinical side anymore. And so I've stayed on the line of education and more community, and certainly uplifting people, just from almost like I don't want to call myself a life coach, because I feel that there's a lot of them. There's only one of me, and I'm going to stay with who I am and what I speak on. I truly speak on truth. I try to be as honest as I can about the words I bring you and how they are connected to our ability to make decisions for ourselves, and even help in making decisions with other people. But good morning, Ardelia. How are you? How are you? How are you? Well, anyway, our word today is utopia, which talks about this imagined place or state of being in perfectness. I'm almost say perfect peace. If y'all ever heard of perfect peace, you understand the significance of just being comfortable in the space that you're in. Nothing's bothering you. You've not taken on, the news feeds and the arguing and the cussing and the road rage and all those kinds of things. You just say, I just want to glide through today. I'm okay. I just want to be a part of what it is to be, comfortable in the space I'm in, and whatever spaces that may take me to. Because sometimes we are charged to go into other spaces, but we aren't necessarily feeling comfortable or welcomed or appreciated for where we are, no matter our purpose for being there. It is what it is. So when I break this word down this morning, my U of utopia is for unbiased. How can we be unbiased? Unbiased, showing no prejudice for or against something. Basically, we're going to be impartial beings. Okay, we're not going to sway left or right. We're going to try to stand as much as we can in the middle. And if it's something that we can show love to, we do show support. Same thing. But it says we are impartial, nonpartisan. We're objective, not subjective. We're neutral. Okay, we're fair. We're just, without an axe to grind. That's the urban way of saying it. Open-minded. How can we be those things to people? We have to present ourselves in a way that people don't feel like we've ridiculed, defamed, made self-conscious. I always try to remember the fact that, I'm a child of the high. And so I'm trying to stay here and be as nice as I can to the people that I meet. And sometimes I've met some pretty ugly people in their behavior, but to get on the same level as them would certainly not be right. So I try to remain unbiased. It's like, okay, that's how you feel. Okay, that's where you're at right now. Sorry that you feel that way, and I can come back with with the counseling retort, no problem. But when we move on in this word of utopia, my T, you can come on with your own words for your U and T. My T is for transparent. I try to be as transparent as I can, having thoughts, feelings, or motives that are easily perceived. If I'm angry, I'm angry because it's hard for me ever to get to the point where I'm angry. It just is. There were 10 of us. And if we were all angry at one time, that would have been a household of hell. My mother wasn't going to have it. So she made us learn to get along with each other. One of the things that she did was that we were a blended family because my mother had been married twice. And so there were Evans and Garys. And so out of the Evans and Garys, we had to learn how to live with each other. The Evans were much older than the Garys. So by the time the Garys came along, the Evans children were old enough to be grown and be gone. So many of them were just coming back to visit by the time we came along. And of course, me as the baby, it ended up that, they didn't argue with me. It was always, hey, you want some candy? You want to go here? You want to go? So they were always good. They were always good to me. So we learned to live with understanding that we should be good to each other. Now, that's not to say I'm going to give another little disclaimer here. That's not to say that some of them didn't get in trouble. Okay, I was not the one. I feel sometimes if you ever notice you have a cup of something, after it sits for a minute, the goodness of it or the stuff that makes it all come together falls to the bottom. That's the good stuff. So you have to stir it back up. So as far as I was concerned, I was at the bottom. So I was always looking at what am I learning from each one of these siblings who's older than me? What am I learning? Reading, going places, being social, telling the truth when I know I've heard a lie. Okay, those kinds of things. You learn from what you see. That's right. So for me, I've always tried to be as unbiased as I can. And I grew up in New York, and my dad moved to New York and my mother and father moved from New York from West Virginia. But my father was from Alabama originally, and my mother, Nashville, Tennessee. So they met in West Virginia, and then they moved to New York. My father moved there for General Electric, so he went and worked at General Electric before he took ill. But they were transparent people. They loved folks. They were gregarious kind of people. They enjoyed doing things together as folks. And we were the benefit of that because we learned to understand yes and no, yes, ma'am. We didn't have to say ma'am, so I'm gonna take that back. That's been my reorientation to the South because my mother, every time we went home and my daughter said yes, ma'am to her, she'd cringe. So yes and no, thank you, please, with great appreciation. Those are the things that we were taught to say. So we were, unbiased so far, transparent. That's because that was transferred to us from our parents. Okay, plain and simple. And says transparent says that it's see-through, it's clear, it's translucent, it's liquidy, and it's fine, meaning that you can get down to the finer details. Now, that's not to say that some of us, as we grew older, we grew more clever. We can grow clever. And in our transparency, we can have what I would call a sub-transparency, meaning hard to get down to the real nitty-gritty, that kind of thing. But it's certainly possible. My O, going on in my word of utopia, my O is being objective. How can we be objective and not subjective? Objective, it says, of a person in their judgment, not influenced by personal feelings or opinions in considering and representing facts. To me, the facts are the facts. We shouldn't have to make up the facts. The facts should stand for themselves. Now, we may have an opinion about the facts, but the facts, they're the same. They are what they are. Every time, I go out and in, my house or someone comes to my door, it will show up. Observance. Absolutely, Cheryl. Come on now. Observance. Yes. My camera picks them up. Picks them up. Now, if they say, well, I was never by your house at that. Oh, well, the camera says differently. That's why I try to tell young people, be careful what you do and then turn around and try to hide it. I said, even when you turn your phone off because your phone was already attached by a ping, because it's pinging into a network tower, they still have you in the vicinity of. Even when I used to talk with young people all the time, I'm saying, don't say where you haven't been, okay? Because your phone is say where you have been. And it's the same thing when they, you look at some of those crime shows and how do they catch people? Their phones, even when they're turned off. We don't pay attention to the details, the finer things. What is the objective? So you talk about objective says not influenced by personal feelings or opinions, considering to representing the facts. The facts are the facts. And says, once again, objective talks about being impartial, non-discriminatory, neutral, fair, uninvolved, and once again, fair-minded. How do we be all of that? Sometimes people don't know. They don't get it. They don't get it. My P, when I move into my word of utopia, which is this imagined place, state of mind, or your presence, the fact that you feel in wherever you're at, that you feeling a sense of utopia, just unrattled by anything going on, uninvolved, just in your own little, I would say, your bubble or your world of comfort. Okay. Peaceful talks about, my P is peaceful, free from disturbance. How many of us want to be free from disturbance? Me. I think yesterday I was driving, I had to go to a meeting, and and I'm looking at there was an accident. I'm saying that I don't want to see all of that. But I happened to be in the lane that could pass. So I wasn't in the lane that was caught up and needed to stop. They were directing us by. So I'm looking for that area of peace. That's what I'm looking for. Free from disturbance, tranquil, calm, restful, quiet, relaxing, soothing, undisturbed, serene, and untroubled. How many of us want that kind of period? I'm not going to say it's always going to be that way, because, the TV is still on, the news feeds are still blowing, the sirens are still going, people will still stop you with a story. So it's when you can find peace, enjoy it. When you can find it, when. My I today for utopia talks about it being an idealist. What is an idealist? Well, an idealist, it says, a person who cherishes or pursues high or noble principles, purpose, goals, meaning they've almost been orientated to do the right thing. How do you do the right thing if you're constantly doing the wrong thing, or no one's really told you to do right or wrong? You don't really worry about it. It says once again, the idealist is the person that would seek utopia, and they might be a visionary, someone who is, basically setting forth some ideas that may work going forward, may work in everyone's future, not just their own, but for others. They may be the one that has, the big, huge fix to something that's been broken a long time. How do you do that? With initiative. Yes, Cheryl. How do you come up with the initiative? To saying that fits, that's it. And initiative really talks about it being at the beginning. It's almost like the period of discovery. An idealist, a visionary, a wishful thinker. I tell you, when I was teaching, I loved people that would think outside the box. And I said, tell me a little bit more about that. And why, and how would it go forward? What do you think you'd have? What are the components of it? And they would get so intrigued, and and they would be able to explain it because it had been their vision. It had been something that they had formed into an idea, and how this idea, if it were to have legs, how it could have action, how it could move forward. Loved it. So it says that the person, that the idealist is a person who cherishes or pursues higher noble principles, purposes, goals, and etc. They are the visionaries. They are the wishful thinkers. They are the optimists, the reformers, the dreamers, the Don Quixotes. I always like the idea of a Don Quixote, and I um I didn't print it out, but I did write it out on my phone. The idea of a Don Quixote is really cool because it says that he was a 17th century Spanish literary character. He was the protagonist of a novel of Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes. It says the book, originally published in Spanish, was in two parts, 1605 and 1615. He says, and basically they dealt with the concerns and the Eponius word, what was basically a knight errant whose delusions of grandeur made him the butt of many practical jokes. So a lot of times when people tell you that they have an idea, people laugh about it. But there's been many a person that has become rich and famous and content in their lives because they pursued something someone else said would never work. Wouldn't you want to be that person? Hey, give me the dough. I want that money. I could think of how I could be a philanthropist with it. I would love to have the money to give away to people. I don't know. One day somebody gonna see one of these videos and they say, we're gonna choose her. We're gonna give her our money and let her deal with it. Oh, I would love it. I would love it. Let the people pitch the ideas, what it is that would work. Not so much like a Shark Tank, because it wouldn't be the Shark Tank theme. It would be more of the humanistic thing. How would they change lives personally? Not the lives of say, people who were selling things, but how people who were saving people, saving themselves and others who've been through tough times. I would love it. So the idealist would also be the castle builder. They would be the castle builder. To me, that's just smart thinking of how you would look at the future if you had this person that was unbiased, transparent, had some objectives, was peaceful in who they were, was an idealist for the most part. And then my A of Utopia says that they would be an area called the Arcadia. And the Arcadia is a region or scene of a simple pleasure and quietness. Or the New English Speaker Office uses Arcadia to designate a place of rustic innocence and simple, quiet pleasure. Once again, we're back down to the garden, the heaven, the Shangri-La, and the utopia. You see how words come together and form a new meaning for you collectively and separately, but they all can relate back to each other of how we are so able to connect who we are with who others are just by words. I constantly ask you, are you stuck? Because sometimes I'm stuck because I may come across a word I don't know. So then I go down the rabbit hole and I figure out, what's this word? How does it relate? How can we use it? Some of these words, if you have to take a test, these words are on your SATs, your ACTs, your GREs, their GMATs. They're on those exams. So I'm also looking at how there's a possibility that what you're having fun with in this, I'm not the Wordle, but if I were, it would be the human side of understanding that words are connected, and can connect us to each other, to how well we live, to how poor we live, and also to conversations that can help us discover our utopia, okay, our peace or peace. If you feel you're on top of stuff, then you have peace. So anyway, I'm hoping that you're going to have a great weekend. I'm looking forward to my weekend. I'm looking forward to, I have a few things to do, but nothing major, nothing major. And prayerfully, I'm going to see you on Monday with another word, and I will advertise it correctly. As I said, it for some reason it skipped over the time, so I know some people that are usually here. They're probably thinking that I'm not on, but prayerfully they'll come back later on and look at it and say, "Oh man, we missed Winnie. We missed Dr. Winnie." But anyway, I'm gonna see you on Monday. You don't have to do anything else but hit that share button. Let this be shared to others at no cost to them, but maybe an opportunity that they too will understand what word we use for today, but that there's other words that are connected to them having a higher sense of self and of purpose in their lives. I love you, love you, love you, and appreciate you very much. I'll see you on Monday at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. All right? Have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.